bear with me just a moment. As an attorney, I'm not very good at going off the cuff, and I've argued to the Supreme Court of North Carolina. I don't think that audience was any more imposing than this one here tonight. But I would like to thank the organizers of this event, including UNCW Pride, for the invitation to speak. And as Kelly said, I was invited as an op-ed piece that I wrote was distributed, and it appeared last Friday in the Star News here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And that piece addressed my concerns and my opposition to the proposed Defense of Marriage amendments to the North Carolina Constitution. Rather than effectively defend the institution of marriage, the proposed amendments seek to prohibit same-sex marriage and to deny gay persons the opportunity to participate in any similar relationship. These amendments will soon be considered by our legislature. In fact, the House today pushed it out of committee, and it will be considered by the Senate as early as tomorrow. They will determine whether to offer a version of the amendment to the public to be considered by the voters in the general election on November 6, 2012. To date, North Carolina has resisted the march toward discrimination previously taken by 30 other states. In adopting similar constitutional amendments, those states have chosen to disenfranchise lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered persons. North Carolina is the only southern state that has not yet adopted such a provision to its state's constitution. In this and many other areas, North Carolina has succeeded in positioning itself apart from the negative perceptions historically attributed to the American South. This state has world-class educational, medical, and research institutions. North Carolina has become a center for banking and finance for the nation. North Carolina has also spawned models for business incubation and development. In short, North Carolina has worked to expand economic growth and individual opportunity. But instead of emphasizing and fostering these positive attributes and encouraging cooperation and economic development, forces within our state are working to derail decades of momentum toward equality, acceptance, and individual rights. The call to arms echoed by the proponents of the amendment includes the argument that such an amendment is necessary to protect the institution of marriage. However, the amendment does nothing to protect that venerable institution. What it does do is institutionalize gay persons as second-class citizens.
Amen.
It is an effort to impose the will of an unaffected majority on an identified minority group. It is a futile attempt to resist change to the status quo. Proponents ignore the fact that any tarnish on the institution of marriage is a direct result of actions by many of those who have now appointed themselves its protectors. Denying gay persons the right to marry does nothing to restore the imagined luster and shine to that treasured talisman. Nevertheless, proponents now decry homosexuality as an insidious evil capable of causing the collapse of marriage. In their relentless defense of the status quo, politicians and those who dictate their actions ignore current realities. They fail to acknowledge that the white picket fences and picture-perfect TV lives that they once saw on Ozzie and Harriet Leave It to Beaver never really existed. Or to be a bit more contemporary, reality never mirrored The Cosby Show, in which all of life's issues could be solved in a 30-minute time slot. Today's families, as diverse as they are, live in the here and now. And to quote Bob Dylan from a bygone era, times they are a-changing. We live in a time when the majority of Americans support same-sex marriage. We live in a time where even North Carolinians oppose the constitutional amendment in the majority that is presently being discussed and is the subject of debate. Many of those who favor the amendment have a view of reality that is foreign to our everyday lives. While individual opinions of same-sex marriage have been quickly progressing toward a broader acceptance, government and other institutions have been late adopters. Those who blindly defend the status quo generally find themselves on the wrong side of history. Persons of similar ilk defended slavery, opposed women's right to vote, and resisted recognizing the civil rights of racial minorities. The arguments used in support of this amendment are in fact taken directly from the playbook of those who opposed interracial marriage. Before 1967, less than 50 years ago, interracial marriage was punishable as a criminal felony in many parts of the United States. In the case Loving v. Virginia, the United States Supreme Court, in a very rare unanimous decision, declared that laws prohibiting interracial marriage were unconstitutional. The Supreme Court further ruled that marriage is a fundamental freedom and individual right. The court ruled that there was no legitimate state interest justifying infringement upon this personal right. Proponents of the constitutional amendment attempt to make a distinction between restrictions based upon race versus sexual orientation. They argue that race is an immutable characteristic determined at birth, and they contend in the face of contrary evidence that sexual orientation is a voluntary choice, a choice which they deem as frivolous as what one chooses to wear on any given day. Regardless, such a distinction is moot. The argument ignores the paramount roles that individual freedom and personal choice play both in our society and in our system of government. The pursuit of happiness and the right to live free of government intrusion are truly fundamental to what it means to be American. Proponents of the amendment overlook the fact that the all-important First Amendment to the Bill of Rights protects freedoms, rights, and behaviors almost exclusively by choice. The freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the right of peaceable assembly, the right to petition the government, and the right to choose one's own religion. Any efforts of the majority to infringe upon the equality and individual rights of any identified minority group are contrary to the ideals of our federal and state constitutions. Institutionalization of discrimination and impeding individual rights are proper only in the furtherance of a superior state interest. There is no legitimate state interest which can be bolstered or advanced successfully through implementation of this amendment. This amendment undoubtedly would harm gay persons. In recent years, the significance and impact of bullying on its victims has been the subject of much commentary. Efforts have been undertaken aggressively to curtail bullying in our schools and in many other areas of our lives. By fighting to stop bullying, politicians, parents, and others have sought to remove the stigma upon those who are perceived as weaker or whose appearance or demeanor differ from accepted norms. Many persons who identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered as children, teens, or young adults know firsthand the emotional and sometimes physical scars of bullying and torment. Can the efforts of the proponents of the Defense of Marriage amendments, which seek to disenfranchise gay persons, be deemed anything other than bullying? Can those same proponents expect that the institutionalization of bigotry and prejudice will do anything other than foster discrimination, discord, and acrimony toward homosexuals? Proponents wish to amend the fundamental governing document of our state in order to establish as a legal imperative a less than universally accepted moral judgment. They wish to deprive gay persons of the full array of rights otherwise guaranteed to them as citizens of our state and nation. They wish to establish gay persons as less than equal. However, The rights of any identified minority group should not be infringed upon for the convenience and appeasement of any unaffected majority. Such is not the American way. Many of the same people who are eager to alter our state constitution adamantly oppose applications and interpretations of that constitution in response to variable political wins, or to suit personal whims. Those who seek to exploit bigotry and prejudice in order to protect the status quo are themselves threatening the nature of our Constitution. They are seeking to alter a document that guarantees and protects equality, freedom, and individual rights. They want to turn that revered document into an instrument of discrimination and oppression. The citizens of this state do not wish to become mired in a futile defense of the status quo. Voters do not want to be late adopters of failed policies that discriminate, alienate, hinder, and harm. We should send a message that we are prepared to work together in order to improve our state and to make North Carolina a place where people want to live and where people live to enjoy life. We should work to create a place that is the envy of other states and which is a destination for individuals and businesses looking for a place to call home. Rarely can it be argued that a single objective or outcome is in the best interest of all concerned. However, a vote against propounding this amendment is the right decision, and it is in the best interest of all North Carolinians. Should such an amendment appear on the ballot, then defeating the amendment is similarly the right decision. North Carolina must demonstrate leadership and give notice that the people of our state support equality and inclusion, and that we are prepared to meet the future with open arms. By being here tonight, each of you has shown that this issue is very personal and important to you. You can embody the type of leadership that North Carolina needs by contacting your local legislators and letting your opinions be known. Tomorrow, a similar vigil will be held in Halifax Mall just outside the legislature building starting about noon in Raleigh. Thursday at 5 p.m., Representative Tom Tillis, Speaker of the North Carolina House, will appear locally at Cape Fear Community College downtown for a town hall style meeting. I encourage you to attend and participate in either or both.
Oh yeah!
Justice, facts, and truth are on the side of equality. Responsible demonstrations of solidarity in opposition to the Defense of Marriage Amendment will have an impact on how politicians vote. Every voice added to the chorus helps fight against discrimination, disinformation, and hate. Look for other ways to allow your voices to be heard in the coming days and months. And for this opportunity, I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wesley.